A feud between Foreign Minister Penny Wong and former Prime Minister Paul Keating has intensified following her address to the National Press Club yesterday. The Foreign Minister used her speech to hit out at those who take self-satisfied potshots at the US after Mr Keating criticised America's concerns about China's influence in the region.
But I think on Mr Keating, what I would say is this. I think in tone and substance, he diminished both his legacy and the subject matter.
Mr Keating released a statement in response to the speech saying Minister Wong's address added nothing of substance to the urgent task of softening the divide between China and the US. Joining us now, former Labor Senator Stephen Conroy. Stephen, good to see you. We have spoken about Paul Keating a few times in the past, so what do you make of his latest intervention and the stoush now, the ongoing stoush between him and Penny Wong?
Well, I think Penny's speech yesterday just set out a very sensible, a very cautious attempt to keep Australia's relationship with China back on track. I mean, the thing that Paul just doesn't get in terms of how much the world has changed is Australia's relationship with China was trashed by the last government. It was trashed for cheap domestic political gain. It wanted to play the Shanghai Sam card. It wanted to try and pretend Labor was going to be soft on China. All that's the context. Australia had our trade significantly restricted by China, in breach of all the rules. Let's be very clear. Australia did nothing of substance to deserve behaviour of China. But what Paul just doesn't want to understand is Asia and the Indo-Pacific is bigger than just China. If Paul was correct, then that means Japan's wrong, South Korea's wrong, Indonesia's wrong, the Philippines is wrong, India is wrong. All of these countries have disputes with China because of their belligerent and aggressive behaviour. If you were a Hong Kong citizen who believed the Chinese government when they said there'll be this two-system, and you've seen the arrests of student activists in China, not a word from Paul Keating. You've got surveillance of the Chinese people themselves, cameras outside their doors of their buildings they can be kept track of. That's not a government or a country that trusts its own citizens. You've got its treatment of the Uyghurs. All of these issues, Paul Keating says it's not China's fault, it's Australia's fault, and that it's the US somehow causing all these tensions. Well, Paul, you just need to get your head out of the sand and understand this is the year 2023. I think Penny's response to Paul yesterday was absolutely appropriate. It is diminishing Paul's legacy. Paul is a hero of the Labor movement. But on this issue, he's wrong. Now, Paul is never famous through all his 40 years of public contributions for admitting that he's wrong very often. And I don't see him understanding or being willing to change a lifetime of behaviour. He's not going to admit he's wrong. He's not going to suddenly point out to the Chinese government, what about your promise not to militarise the South China Sea? Paul, they don't own the South China Sea. There's been an international court ruling on this. They have absolutely zero claim to intimidate shipping, to intimidate aircraft, to claim ownership of these islands. So this is not about China's backyard. The international court has said it's not China's backyard, Paul.
Yeah.
And the sooner you start pointing that out to the Chinese government with your influence that you have with them, and let's be very clear, Paul is a voice the Chinese listen to.